and some of that's like, this is where I think baseball is kind of also going wrong too. Nerds are ruining the game.
Do you want to bring us back in, William?
I would love to bring us back in. Are we recording?
We're recording, yeah.
Good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of the Whatcha podcast. How you doing, Max?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am doing well.
Freshly napped?
I have napped once again, but our guest today, best friend of the pod, Cody McCarty.
Yeah,
is here with us, and he
cra-
brought a green tea for me. How you doing, Cody?
I'm doing well. It's crazy to hear you say, "Are we recording now?" Because I know that will be the beginning of the podcast because that's how you start. It's always like, "Are we on? Are we live?" And then you're going. It's like, "Oh yeah, let's make it seem natural."
That's because Max will we'll do this thing, and then I'll hear a click. But then he'll just slowly pivot towards me, and we'll start talking. And
you need a little bit of dead air for the audio recording because I gotta normalize the sound.
Yeah.
So I need a little bit of dead air.
Yeah.
But then it's fun to just come in naturally and not be like a hard start.
What I'm hearing you saying is every time we record this thing, starting with "Are we live now?" is not.
No, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It hooked me. What more do you need? And then I know the music has been a hot topic.
It's been a hot topic.
I've gone out of my way to make it normal now.
Okay, are we all good with that now?
Well, it's up to y'all. Y'all are the listeners.
Yeah,
you're not a listener, but you're a listener.
I think it was somebody as talented as you, William, and Max. I'm sure you're talented
I'm
in your
not
own
musically
ways.
talented whatsoever.
In other ways,
Yes.
I'm like, man, you guys could make a killer song, probably.
Well, I've been bringing that up.
No,
William talked about writing last week.
I've been thinking about it. I have a little tune that I actually wrote before we started recording that I'm not sure if it fits for this, but I think I could take it and work it in such a way that it would. And I think that might be what I do. But I haven't given it much.
Do you have the ability to record something like that without just
opening voice memos?
Yeah, but is there a way we can make that sound better?
Yeah, no, for sure.
As we're surrounded by microphones.
I was about to say, yeah, we could literally record it.
Okay.
I would just move this down to my guitar.
Can we not plug your guitar in?
Or we could do that. That would work probably better, actually.
See, that's what you bring, Max.
The technology.
Yeah, man. You're thinking.
The wallet.
So quick to doubt yourself. The wallet. Cody, we were just talking before, and you said you had some critiques.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, outside of Christian, I'm the first official guest.
That is correct. Yes. And we're gonna say the first official guest.
Hey man, I enjoyed it.
Nobody else did. Besides my mom.
Yeah,
and your mom.
Yeah, Sini's a huge fan. She told me to make sure to shout her out on the way over here.
She deserves a shout out. She texts me every week on Tuesday, typically with a quote of something that she enjoed about that week's podcast.
Sini is also not afraid to kiss my baby on the face.
Good for her.
Very few people will go in for it, but she's like, "There's that baby, I'm kissing it," and I'm like, whatever.
As a dad,
is that cool?
It's tough to navigate because you're like, I want to keep my baby healthy,
sure,
particularly when she doesn't have like all these vaccines, and so it's not just kissing her; it's like keep passing her around. All the people like holding her and stuff like that. Spring Hita yesterday, we had a fundraising dinner yesterday for our family at churches, and let me tell you, man, you just get this overload of people, and it's this balance of like, oh man, it's so cool that people love your kids so much, but also you're like, all right, like this kid's used to just being home all day.
Oh, sure.
And then
I see your nose running.
Yeah, typically with big stuff like that, I try and not approach children super closely. Just like specifically,
you'll get sick?
No, just because I'm like I've thought about that before. Just because most parents at like larger event type things with young kids, like baby.
Yeah, I got a 4.5 month.
Right, there seems to be, you can almost see it on their face sometimes of just this kind of what do we even do? And people are always, I'm sure, it's sweet and you want people to get to come see your kid, but let's be honest, I'm sure it also gets to the point where you're like, we're literally constantly bombarded by people wanting to hold my kid and touch, you know what I mean?
And so it's very much, you're just like, all right, let's just, like, you're going into it as you have to build up the energy for it, because it's not just like, oh yeah, we're just going to the dinner kind of thing, get to hang out, talk to your friends. It's like, no, we're probably got about 90 minutes in us max. And so we were there for the dinner and then, split before the auction and stuff like that. But so that's kind of the new reality. But church is a little bit different, especially like over time, enough people kind of see the baby to where you're like, all right. But yeah, I also got to, anytime I get to do anything like this, I got to give Hannah a shout out because it's just, if I'm anywhere, she is likely at home.
Right.
Right now it's like she has a baby on her lap for the next hour and a half kind of thing. And so a lot of respect to her. And
you're shouting her out. Will she listen to this?
She said she will listen to this episode.
Good.
So
okay.
maybe it's
because you're on it.
It gets the ball rolling. Yeah.
Has she listened to any of our episodes before?
No, she hasn't.
Okay.
You know what's kind of an interesting thing that I'm finding? It's fine. Totally fine with this.
It's not fine.
There are lots of people that we know, that know us, and I would venture to say like us, friends.
Right.
Don't care at all. Do not freaking care about this thing that we do.
What's funny is I think they would enjoy it if they listened to it.
I think some would. I do think there's a kind of person, I'm saying this because I can be this person.
Where it's like, you made a podcast, I'm not going to listen to that.
Absolutely. Who I'm like, okay. And I'll, Lindsay earlier was telling me, she was like, hey, you realize this podcast that you're doing, every time that you've ever made fun of someone for like making a blog or something, like you're doing that. And I was like, why? Why would you say that?
Why would you drag me down like that?
Why would you tell me the truth like that?
You got a war on blogs?
No, I don't necessarily.
No, it's just one blog, and I know the blog. I'm not going to say it, though.
I'm not thinking of a blog
I know which blog it is.
Oh, gosh. But anyway, I do think that there are a lot of people that probably see us, post this every week, and they're like, I don't care at all. And that's fine. That's fine. That's their thing. But, maybe we'll gain a listener.
Yeah. Do you guys think you have more listeners in Garland or more listeners in Germany? Where apparently Max was saying you have a pretty
We're
big...
blowing up in Germany.
I think it's 5% now.
Oh,
it's
5%,
dropped.
5% of Germany?
No.
Yeah,
that'd be pretty crazy.
Insane.
That's a lot of people.
The Germans, man, they love.
We got to be careful what we do with this.
Just put hashtag Dirk in every single post you do, and you'll
I
get
don't know
something.
why we're not doing that already.
Yeah.
Speaking of, Mavs dropped one yesterday.
Yeah,
That
in a bad way.
In a bad way.
Yeah, by one.
Yeah, I got to catch the end of it on somebody's phone, and Dwight Powell, man, missing 2 free throws at the end there. Not cool.
I didn't see it, so I'm hearing.
I mean, he literally. I think we were down by 1, and he missed both with like 30 seconds left.
Oh gosh!
Wow. We lost by 1, so you hate to see it.
I was confused because somebody told me that there was about 11 seconds left. Mavs had the ball down by 1, and they essentially didn't even get a playoff.
Right.
It was the last second, throw up a shot, and I was like, how is that possible?
Yeah.
And so I went and watched it back, and I was like, oh, I see. And I don't know enough about basketball. I don't know about you guys, to where I can critique and be like, what was that play call? But that was most of the comments on Instagram. So,
dude, I wish I could remember
anything about basketball plays.
Well, no, I remember stuff about. I don't remember that. I don't remember like that last play and what happened. But
apparently, Jalen brought it up, gave it to Luka.
Luka
was
Luka did play.
Luka had the ball, and the defense shifted, and so he, in his basketball mind, knew to make the extra pass.
Yeah,
which I think is a smart basketball IQ play. But apparently, it's like you have to make that choice between like, am I going to do the right thing, or I'm Luka Doncic, I need to pull this 3.
Yeah, I should put it up.
And so he gave it to either, I think it was Dorian Finney-Smith.
It was Dinwiddie.
Oh, Dinwiddie.
And then Dorian was in the corner. And the critique I was seeing was that we were down by 1 and nobody was cutting to the basket.
Okay, gotcha.
Oh, right.
And so I don't know if it was just because that added pressure came, and so it kind of blew things up the
Maybe.
top. But
I don't know.
That's a sport I'm very much in the dark about.
Well, we're not here to talk about basketball
today. You know what? We didn't even get to what he was talking about with the critiques. We never got there.
And it'll probably happen more today than normal because there's 3 of us.
Yeah.
And so we can just kind of bounce. What was the original question was, you have critiques for the pod. Or maybe not the pod.
Yeah, as the special guest.
Oh, okay.
As the original first guest, excluding Christian. So when I used to work for The Ticket, might have heard of it.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I forgot about that.
So when we had Dirk on the air, not to compare myself to Dirk too much, but
sounds like you are.
Already I've mentioned him twice. So when, I went and met Dirk in the garage.
Sure.
All right.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And Dirk didn't have to climb 8 sets of stairs. Is that what I was looking at? in order to get, I got the elevator for Dirk. I had a bottle of water for Dirk.
Right.
How many times have I said Dirk now?
I think
okay, not enough. And then, we brought him on. We bantered for a little bit beforehand. You guys had that covered. But you got to meet Dirk in the garage is what I'm saying.
You're saying you bantered with Dirk personally?
Yeah. We talked soccer.
Interesting.
Yeah, I was wearing my Liverpool shirt, which was a very strategic move on my part because I knew he liked soccer. And I can't tell you much about Liverpool. But I knew...
The Beatles are from Liverpool.
Liverpool.
That's all I know.
I knew that he would at least look at that. And I didn't want to talk basketball with Dirk because everybody's going to do it.
Right, of course.
And so, he saw my shirt and he was like... said something about it, and apparently I think his brother-in-law played soccer professionally.
Really?
Yeah. So we talked about that for a little bit. I pretended like I knew what I was talking about. I think I winged it enough. Maybe I didn't, looking back now. I winged it enough to where I at least held my own in conversation.
That sounds like a smart way to approach that.
Yeah. Yeah, it reminds me of your it was that Danny Trejo conversation.
Oh man.
Yeah. Where you're like, okay, I just want enough conversation to at least say I interacted with Danny Trejo.
I'm going to call you out right now.
Yeah, you're going to do it, aren't you?
Danny is not in 50 First Dates.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, did you say that to him?
Yeah,
he sure did.
I sure did.
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
We're going to blame that on Lindsay because she'll never listen to this. But she confused Dan. No, not Dan.
Rob
Schneider and Danny Trejo.
My God.
Rob Schneider's character in 50 First Dates, I'll give it to her, is the most Danny Trejo looking that he's ever been.
Yeah, easily.
But so when we were in the airport that morning, she was like, "Oh yeah, from 50 First Dates." And if
he was wearing a mask,
if I had thought about that for maybe 5 seconds, I would have been like, "Wait, no, that's not him." But I just didn't, and I was like, "Yeah."
And you said it to Danny
and
Trejo.
So when I spoke to him, this is stupid in and of itself, and the more that I think about it, I regret it. But I told him that I loved him in Spy Kids, Machete, Con Air, and 50 First Dates.
And you ended on 50 First Dates?
That is correct.
You didn't just, it wasn't just like part of the sandwich, just kind of mixed in there. Maybe you didn't notice it, but
No.
He was probably tracking with you. He's probably like, yeah, man. Yeah, oh, dude, yeah, Machete, everybody says that.
Sure, yeah.
And then he was like, what the?
Yeah.
He doesn't remember.
So
he's like, maybe
a few weeks ago, Hannah Mason texted me, and she's like, dude, what?
Yeah.
She had been listening and was like, he's not in this movie.
Man.
And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, so I'm,
Yeah,
we haven't corrected it on the pod yet. So
it was good to get that out there. To answer your critique, William came up here and I said, "Hey, you didn't want to wait down in the garage for Cody," and so I'm going to blame that on William.
No, it's 100% my fault. I told him that I checked my watch and it was like 4:33, 4:34, and I was like, "Oh, I probably should head up."
Yeah, and then he read that you were having
I saw that you
travel issues, and he chose to come up even faster.
Right. Yeah, but who lives here?
There a pivot I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, right.
Wholeheartedly agree with.
Yeah, I do.
And I like that we're having you on, and yet you brought me a beverage. That's
I brought you a beverage.
And offered one for Max.
That was very kind of you, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, man. You bet.
You know what else he did for me recently? Very sweet. I say recently. You did this for me in December.
Yeah.
I received the gift yesterday. We were recording on April 24th.
Late April.
Cody gave me a Christmas gift yesterday, which was awesome. It was a bag of golf balls, which I need desperately.
What more do you need?
I'm losing them, by the dozen whenever I go play. But yeah, man, I
18
really
around, right?
It. Pretty much.
I
thought that was funny.
In part, I did that because this past year, you paid for a round of golf for me.
Okay.
And you took me to the Texas TCU game. Yeah. And so I figured, why not get you $8 worth of golf balls?
I say we call it even.
Yeah, I think so.
We're good
also, what's that bling on your desk there, bro?
That's the 2014 Wiley Prep State Championship ring.
Have you guys flexed about that yet?
Mm-mm. On here, no.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's, that definitely, gives me pause.
Do you want to hold it?
Yeah, I want to wear it. Can I wear it?
Yeah, sure, man.
Or does it then become mine?
No.
It's lighter than I thought. No.
It's fine.
Yeah, you got some girthy fingers.
I sure do.
He's got some big old fingies.
They've actually shrunk since high school.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that. But yeah, man, we haven't flexed about that. I don't think we really need to. It was almost 10 years ago.
Gosh, we're old.
Yeah, until it is 10 years, I think you can flex about it.
Yeah. It's fine.
It's a shame that this isn't a spinner on top like some of those rings. Just some normal crystals.
Yeah, that's the thing too. Is like there's no diamonds in there. Like that's just
Yeah.
I think it's glass.
I don't know what kind of stone.
Cubic zirconium.
Moissanite maybe.
Moissanite's actually nicer than the other one, right?
Probably. Yeah, keep saying that. My wife has a moissanite ring, so I didn't pay him to say that.
It's on the up and up for sure. Mm-hmm. That's where it's at.
I was going to press the mute button. I got to sneeze, and I was going to try to save the viewers, but I lost the sneeze.
They're not viewers.
Oh, that's right, listeners.
Hardly listeners. But so you don't have any other critiques? Was that it?
That was it?
If that's it,
so far,
I feel pretty good about
so
that.
far now.
I do acknowledge that one of us, or both, should
have met you down there.
You down there.
Depends who it is. You know, if it's a stranger like me who's never been here before. Yeah, what's that on your wall?
That's Britney Spears, brother.
Okay, it's
1999.
Yeah, Britney Spears with some of your roommates.
Yeah, also, they wanted to put themselves up there.
Yeah, this is also I think pretty neat too to get a behind the scenes look at this high quality production that you have on this podcast. Do you normally just kind of hold a mic like that, or do you use? This
I'm usually using one of those mics. Okay, but this is our capacity for a guest right now.
Yeah, we have yet to dump much at all. Funds wise,
yeah, y'all need a few sponsors.
To the setup here.
Yeah, I've been talking to my marketing team about potentially sponsoring, one of these episodes, or at least a segment, at least,
You said the marketing team?
Yeah.
Of
of Cody DFW.
Of Cody DFW.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, we've been chatting.
How are those chats going?
Is it like a team of like one?
Yeah, so far, and even then, that team of one is running about half capacity.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, I don't think at this point in our early stages it would be super wise for. I
reached out to Liquid Death to try to get some free water.
What'd they say?
They haven't responded.
Why would they?
I don't know.
And yeah, no, that we have no reach yet.
No,
so if you were to reach, you'd be reaching towards people who already know that.
Yeah, then that's my market, right?
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah,
that's
and Germany
point, actually, and Germany.
Yeah.
What if you just got a call and it was like, we need you? Could you can't sell in Germany.
When they want to come over here, yeah,
which is likely.
Can I tell you what I was thinking? The effort that my marketing team put in. Well, they were thinking about doing a full commercial spot in German.
That's a great idea.
I know, man. I try to back up from the mic whenever I laugh so it's not so loud, because whenever I listen, it's always like, oh my gosh, and I have to turn it down whenever it starts. So that's a little pro tip.
Ray was complaining the other day because apparently with whatever levels we record with, they're not as loud as... What is it? What are they not as loud as? Like the commercial that we have? Or something like
I don't have a way to fix that.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, God rest it. But yeah, man. So I've been thinking about doing that commercial in German. So,
do you speak German?
No.
Did you speak any German to Dirk?
No, definitely not.
What's hello in German?
Nein.
That's all I know.
Dorchel.
No, that can't be it.
Dorchelhoy.
Dorchelhoy.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Blankencon.
Man, we're probably saying some terrible things already. German listeners are so like canceled, bro. Canceled. Yep.
I think there was one listener at one point that was in Germany, and that was it.
Well, we missed it.
It was probably a VPN.
It also could have been a VPN.
Yeah,
that makes sense too. Well, I'm very excited to have you on today because we're gonna have a conversation that I'm really pumped about, because neither one of us is a super big baseball person.
Not really at all. No.
But the season's kicking up. What is it? 3 weeks in now?
Something like that.
2 or 3 weeks? Yeah.
About 15 games in.
And
that's crazy. That's a lot of games in a short
time.
They
play so many games, which I'm sure is something we'll talk about. But yeah, we thought it'd be fun to have you on.
This was a conversation prompted by Cody.
Right.
He put in on the Q&A. I can only assume because it was anonymous. The way we looked at that.
Did you do that?
Maybe. I definitely answered that. Yeah.
Okay.
It was like, what kind of topics?
Yeah, on Spotify. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, these are the topics I want, and this is, if you ever need a guest, here's what I can provide.
Sure,
and it's a very short list.
Well, we got you, man.
Survivor and baseball.
Yeah.
That's about it.
I've also never watched any Survivor, so I wasn't prepared.
Oh, man.
I've had a lot more baseball experience than Survivor.
If we ever talk Survivor, I'm going to give you all some homework.
That's fair. I hear great
Survivor
things.
is amazing.
You watch?
Oh, yeah. Not currently, but...
I mean,
I'm excited for that one.
42 seasons or something?
42, baby.
Is it really?
Yeah,
42?
Man.
Man, that's crazy.
It's impressive for a show to do that.
Mm-hmm.
How much money do you think Jeff is worth?
Man, dude, he's the GOAT.
Has he been there the whole time?
Whole time since 2000, man.
Wow.
Yeah, still rocking.
So they're doing 2 seasons a year.
Yeah, except for the pandemic year. They had to take that off, obviously. But yeah, man.
Actually, they probably wouldn't fine. They totally could have done that.
So
just put them all on an island together?
They have a lot of restrictions. And we'll dive into that during that episode.
Let's not talk Survivor right now. It sounds like we're going down that rabbit hole, and that's not what we want.
But yeah, so let's talk baseball. The first question that I just wanted to ask you is...
didn't ask the first question of what you think baseball.
Sure. Why don't you just do that?
Cody.
Sir.
William.
Yes?
What you think about baseball?
Excellent. That's good.
You did a great job. Asking for you to answer. I don't need you to tell me that my question was a good question.
I'll open us up because it'll be short and sweet. I used to really enjoy baseball.
As a child or as a
junior high and high schooler.
Okay.
I enjoyed baseball. I look back on not playing baseball with regret. Baseball is fun. It's fun to throw a baseball. I can imagine that it is fun to hit a baseball. Probably pretty difficult. But I get to... So right now, I get to work a little bit with a baseball team at Wiley East. Mm-hmm. And... I just I've been hearing them talk about the season and stuff like that, and it seems like they're all having so much fun, and it just seems like a sport that I think I could have been okay at, and I think I really would have enjoyed it. I went to a lot of Rangers games, probably from 6th grade to junior year of high school.
Do you think your interest in baseball waned as the Rangers got worse and worse?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what were those years? 6th grade?
So that was 2000. It was prime Rangers. Mm. It was 08 to 2013,
2014.
Mm-hmm. So it was the best time to be a Ranger fan. And I went to a couple of those playoff games. And I'll tell this story later, but I also didn't go to one that I could have
and should have.
That was a major mistake. Mm. But yeah, so I enjoyed baseball, but I never played, and because I never played, there are things about baseball that I kind of just don't get.
Yeah.
And I don't understand, and I hear people talk about it, and I'm like, okay, I'm not really tracking with that. So that's kind of what I think about baseball. I think it's really sad that baseball as a sport has just kind of dropped. It's still a top 5 sport, I think. Probably top 3, honestly. But it used to be
number 1.
The biggest deal.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. That's what I think. What do you think, Cody?
Well, I want to hear what you think, Max.
I am not a big baseball fan. My first experience with baseball, I think, I was probably 8 or 9 and went to a Rangers game in the middle of summer and sat in the sun. And it was the longest day of my life, the hottest day of my life. And that was kind of baseball for me.
It'll get you.
Yeah. And so that's not fun. The games are too long. There's not enough action for me. It's kind of boring. And I don't know if I'd even like to get into baseball. There's a lot of players. It's too much to learn, I think. It was my first major, not major, but oversweep of the idea of baseball.
What about watching on TV? Do either of you...
I will watch periodically on TV throughout the summer. I don't know why, but that's just something that I'll do.
What other sports are on during the summer?
Basketball playoffs are the first half of the summer, and then after that you've got baseball.
Yeah, that's your only option.
Okay, but I'll do it, and then I'll pick it back up sometimes in playoff time,
right?
October-ish,
naturally, yeah. Right? It's tough because that's also when football season is starting.
Right,
correct.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, man. What I think about baseball? So for those that don't know, we're based out of Dallas, basically, and so our team locally, Texas Rangers, been around since the 70s, so not a ton of history, but obviously 50 years is nice. So yeah, I mean, I've grown up playing it. I grew up going to games since as long as I can remember. Pictures of me, as a 4-year-old out of the stadium that you suffered in. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah. Ballpark, man. But it's like when you're a kid, you just got this energy that just, can beat that 100-degree heat. But yeah, man. So I had a family of 4. So me, 3 of the siblings plus my parents. So we didn't grow up with money. So it can be one of the cheaper sports to attend.
That's true.
If you get some of those tickets up top, and then growing up, they always had these deals. You bring in a Coke can, you get 4 tickets and a hot dog that you split between the 4 of you, or whatever, right? $20, and so so it's it was an accessible sport, I think, in that sense. Mm-hmm. It's also one of the more accessible sports to play as a kid. It's just you have 9 players on a team, so you're more likely to get playing time as opposed to some of these other sports.
That's true.
Yeah. So things like that. So I think I had a lot of involvement with the sport, and just became obsessed with it, watching it. Whether it was these teams, we're talking. So 95 is probably when I first started to watch.
Okay.
Very, very bad teams in there. So thankfully we reached the playoffs for the first time in our franchise's history, which is awful to say. It took us 20-something years to reach the playoffs. But so we reached the playoffs in I think it was 96 was the first time. Immediately swept by the Yankees. And then I think we're the next year, same thing, we reached the playoffs, immediately swept by the Yankees. 2 years later we reached the playoffs again in 99. And then we are beat by the Yankees. I think we won 1 game against the Yankees. So that's kind of the history of Rangers' success that you're looking at in my childhood. And then we go into the worst years of baseball I think I've ever witnessed, even more so than what we've been dealing with recently, even though there's a lot of parallels. And so there's a lot to suffer through there. Mm-hmm. And so I needed a playoff team to latch on to, and I latched on to the Boston Red Sox. So you probably see me in my Red Sox hat.
Sure, yeah. Mm-hmm. So this would have been 2000s, early 2000s?
Yeah, so you're talking 2003. First real, so it's maybe, I don't know if this is an appropriate word, but my sports puberty. It's when you're coming into sort of you're all right, I'm
coming of age.
Yeah. I'm starting to love, find my first love here.
Oh yeah.
And so we all have these nostalgic memories of whatever that was, and I love these surveys of when was the best era of basketball, or it's always whenever you were coming into that sports puberty.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Always, right? And so for me, I found a team to root for the playoffs. It was the Red Sox. Red Sox had this historic run the year after I really started following them. Documentaries about it. One, I think 30 for 30 did one that was absolutely terrific that I would encourage. 45 minutes, great watch. And so then I was just hooked for life after that. But that's also correlates with kind of the downturn of baseball. But it's almost here's another critique of the podcast, the Formula One episode y'all had. Formula One has a huge following, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, but it's not like other sports where there's constant action.
Right.
It's you got to know kind of what's going on here. But for some reason, you guys are hooked on Formula One, even though you didn't grow up on Formula One. And so it's I would have loved to know, what is it about a sport like Formula One, and maybe you can answer this now, that really hooked you, even though it's not constant action, even though there's not these personas that are marketed to, the millionth degree it is here in America. So what is it about something like that really got you guys maybe I'm interested in this, maybe as a grown man for the first time ever, even though I can't even go to the events.
Sure.
I mentioned this.
You can, actually. They have a
in Austin, right?
In Austin, yeah.
Yeah, so you got to drive 3.5 hours. You got to go sit in the sun over there.
Correct.
You got to pay a couple $100 probably.
Expensive, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let me I'll dip out of this one. That was the episode that Christian was on.
Oh. So yeah, pardon.
I have had 0 Formula One interest.
No wonder that y'all didn't go dive deep into Formula One.
Correct. Yes,
I'm just playing.
My interest in Formula One comes strictly from the Netflix documentary on it, where they dive into not just the history of the sport, but also the 10 different teams that are in the sport, as well as the drivers. Just seeing the personalities of the sport made me enjoy it.
Yeah, and that I think is exactly why Formula One is doing well, and it's why sports like basketball really took off in the David Stern era when he kind of took over. There's a really cool show on HBO right now.
I haven't watched it yet.
Showtime?
Yeah,
pretty neat. It takes liberties, but it's just pretty neat to kind of watch the growth of this sport that was about to fall apart.
Yeah.
And then also there were some similar things that happened with football. Football was divided into the 2 leagues, and they came together as one league in I think the 70s, and then from there you really started to kind of see what football was becoming. But even then, it didn't become what it is now I think, until kind of like the late 90s, early 2000s, which honestly I think correlates with some of baseball's downfall. Yeah, and I'll get into some of that. But, that's just kind of my overarching, like, this is where I'm coming from when it comes to baseball. So I don't know if you had any like specific questions that you want to dive into.
This is the most history we've ever gotten on a podcast so far.
That's the thing, man. So you talk about Formula One, right? And how what's the name of the documentary?
Formula One Drive to Survive.
Yeah, very popular. I think within I'm into sports, and so I'm going to hear about it probably a little bit more. So I wonder if just sort of the average person has heard about this documentary, but it's very, very popular. Very, in America, where, yeah, it's like you're not. This isn't their target audience, but somehow we've latched on.
Right.
Sure.
And I think it's because they do such a great job of, you need context here. And if you get the context of it, then you go to watch it, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, I'm actually kind of into this. And that's very similar to baseball. If you watch what goes on with baseball, even, Twitter is kind of like, it's the best and worst thing for baseball, because you're seeing these really cool things. You want to see Fernando Tatis? Just jump on the Twitter, for San Diego Padres, and they're going to show you Fernando Tatis. You don't have to watch 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
You're getting the 12 seconds of the best player on the team. And so, yeah, but it's like, if you want more, you need the history and the context and what's going on here. And that just adds so many layers to it that I think, baseball's trying to figure out, like, how do we, really bring this out? And so that's why you talk about, like, man, history. Yeah, this sport is just full of that.
I also think, I wonder if there are certain things about reality TV that maybe even like the MLB and other leagues are kind of seeing, like, okay, people want an inside look into players and their lives and their personalities and things like that.
Well, the NFL has kind of figured that out with the HBO show. What is that
Hard
called?
Knocks.
Hard Knocks, yeah.
Which I feel like they've actually been doing that for a while, but I love Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
Right.
And I really do enjoy, like, the behind the scenes practices and meetings and just little glimpses that you kind of get into what goes on, Monday through Saturday in the NFL.
When I think even like Netflix has QB1 as well. If they did like a QB1 for baseball, I'd watch that too.
Yeah.
They just don't have that kind of thing yet.
Yeah, or even...
Unless they do and I don't know about it.
I mean,
I don't think so.
There's some things here and there that kind of dive into behind the scenes stuff, but for the most part, no. I even think of like John Gruden's show where he was it Monday Morning QB or something like that.
Oh, I was thinking of Gruden's Grinders.
Maybe that's what it is. Yeah,
you just made that up.
Yeah,
I don't think so. I might be thinking he would do this little segment on Monday Night Football when he was the analyst, where he'd bring someone in and yell at them and stuff. Yeah. He wouldn't actually yell at them, but it was just film breakdown type stuff. Yeah. But
like that kind of stuff is just to the normal everyday fan to get a look behind of like, whoa, the depth of this. Or that Cooper Kupp interview where he was talking about that touchdown or whatever. I don't know if you've ever seen this.
Oh, and he read off Madden plays almost.
He was just kind of going through it, right? Yeah. And then instantly people were like, this is amazing. Like, look at this dude's mind. And so when you start to get an insight of the depth behind some of this stuff, you're like, whoa, okay, this is, and some of that's like, this is where I think baseball is kind of also going wrong too. Nerds are ruining the game. Nerds have made it to where if the most interesting thing about this at bat is that this guy's barrel percentage is, 98% percentile, like nobody cares about that he barrels the ball better than anybody else. Like, what does that mean for me watching this sport?
I don't even know what you're saying.
Exactly.
That's what I mean when I say that there are certain things about playing baseball. Like, I remember finding out, like, that slugging is you have to do, like, some kind of
there's
percent or
math.
Like, there's like a math, and I was like, I'm gonna do I'm not doing that.
Yeah, nobody wants to see what Steph Curry's splash percentage is. You just want to see Steph Curry go off.
Splash.
Yeah, and so I think there's like stuff like that where I'm like, what are we doing? Yeah. What's our audience here? Why can't we just make beautiful documentaries about some of these teams and players? But that's some stuff that I definitely want to dive into. But I don't know if y'all have anything else just off the top of your head where you're like, let's just set a little bit more foundation here.
I one time went to a Rangers-Yankees game, and
electric, right?
Oh, it was amazing. So good.
Yeah.
But I would go with a buddy of mine who had season tickets, and we'd go for batting practice. So we'd show up like hours before the game. And so we go to the Yankees dugout, and Alex Rodriguez walks up, and we've got all this stuff that, I'm like, I was a kid.
Yeah.
So, whatever. As a Rangers fan, like, not super cool, but it's A-Rod. I'm like, if I can get him to sign something.
You give him a Rangers ball to sign?
No, I was just going to give him a ball to sign. Yeah, I'm like, here's my Rangers shirt, sign it. But he looked me straight in the eyes and he said, I got to go to BP and I'll be back in like 5 or 10 minutes. I'll come sign you stuff. That dude never came back.
Coward.
Yeah. He left. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say.
Now A-Rod's on basically a makeup tour.
Really?
So where he knows his Hall of Fame vote is coming up pretty soon, and so he's starting this tour of like, man, I hope people think of me positively. But so the stories like this though will keep him down, brother. Yeah, we need that. Get out there and evangelize against him.
Seriously. I was wondering. You mentioned kind of loving baseball from a very young age. Was that something that was kind of passed down from your family? It was like, were your parents big sports fans or baseball fans or?
Oh yeah. It's hard to. I think I'm in a similar boat as most of my family, where it's like, if there's a sport, we'll look into it.
Yeah.
Except for soccer, for some reason they're always so against that, and so I think it wasn't until like college that I really got into soccer. Really into soccer enough to talk to Dirk, so flex on that. So right. Time number 12.
We're gonna have to do a Dirk count on this.
I saw him as soon as I walked in. That poster of Dirk over there in the corner. I was like, oh baby,
I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. So I think there's just so many memories associated with the sport. Whether it's just watching at home, when you don't have money, you just kind of what you got at home is what you use. And so it was playing outside with the friends, and it was what's on the TV, because our vacations were literally to Arlington. Yeah. Like that was vacation for the year.
That's you bring up an interesting point, because I hadn't thought much about this. I've never gone to a Cowboys game. And I didn't start going to college football games until I would go to TCU games because Lindsay was cheering at them.
Right.
But we'd go to Rangers games like sometimes 2 or 3 a year, just my family. And then I started going with my buddy. I would go, 5 a year, something like that. And even as adults, it's like, I'll look into a Rangers game every year because it's so affordable.
It's pretty accessible.
And that is something that I appreciate and really love about baseball. I don't know if that's something is that the same across the whole league? Like,
yeah, I mean, I think you got 162 games. So earlier we were talking about 15 games pretty far into the season, 10%. So it'd be like if you're 1.6 games into the 1.7 games into the Cowboy season right now, you'd be like, oh, we're still pretty early, right? Yeah. So that's kind of where we're at. So you got 162 games, and I think for the most part, unless it's like when the Lakers come to town. When the Lakers come to town, the tickets are gonna be 3 times as expensive.
Right.
Same thing with the Yankees and Red Sox. You're gonna have that kind of stuff. But even then, it's like I went to a Yankees game, sat in the outfield. Same section, actually. I don't know if y'all saw it on the news the other day on the Twitter sphere. This whole section of Yankees fans started getting into fight with players.
I did not see
this. Yeah, that's another thing that's interesting about baseball is that a lot of what's interesting about baseball happens outside of play. And so there's I feel like there's some of that in every sport.
Right.
But yeah, so I went to the Yankees game and it was like $25, $30, something like that. So same seats. If I was trying to find this cheapest seat at the Rangers game, I'm looking at like $10. So, it's expensive, but to say I was at Yankee Stadium, watched the Yankees play for $30, that's pretty cheap.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I can't. Yeah, that's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking hundreds of dollars to go see a Cowboys game.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, I looked it up because I was kind of wondering. I was like, is part of the issue that now this is an expensive event, baseball. And so I went to a game last weekend, which is why I couldn't record this podcast, ironically. And so my tickets were, $30 each or something like that. Parking, it'll run about $20 for a car. You're driving out to Arlington. I love what y'all said one time. I think it was you and Christian talking. You're like, when I was a kid, Arlington felt like oh my gosh, dude. You're like, we're never gonna get there. Yeah. But now I drive out there and I'm like, 40 minutes.
It's nothing.
No, it was so far as a kid though.
Yeah, it totally was. But somehow I'm like, man, did the roads just get better or something? But then you drive out there and everything's under construction.
Right.
But yeah, so you got gas and then you got concessions, and so me and my brother, I got a hot dog and some cheese fries, most disgusting cheese I've ever had in my life. And the dude in the back was just like squeezing it out of his bag. I saw he like burned himself on the bag, and this lady's like, Charles, we got that cheese yet? And I was like, we waited in line for like 30 minutes. This whole experience, and it cost us $45. All this stuff, and so I was like, man, like does that? Because me and my brother per person is probably like a $60 adventure to go watch this game. And I was like, is that a stumbling block for people to go out here? And then I was like, let me see what the cheapest Cowboys ticket is. Let's assume you didn't get anything.
Right.
And it was like 60 something bucks.
Yeah.
Just, sit in the corner of the end zone way at the top. And I'm like, no.
Right.
This isn't like, because you don't got to eat.
Right.
You don't got to get all this. And so, yeah, man. So I'm like, it's still a cheap event to go out there.
Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah, that's interesting. So to me, I'm trying to think more into like, because all of this is making sense, and I'm like, yeah, I do enjoy baseball. I think to me one of the major reasons that it's been difficult for me to care about baseball or follow it like I do football and then basketball, I think the length of the season. And what I mean more is how many games are played. So you've already, you already said 162 game season. Mm-hmm. To me, each game, naturally, it's like the more that you have of something, the less each individual game matters. And maybe matters is not the right word, but just the less weight on each game there is, right?
Right.
And so, it's like you got a, 17 game NFL season. It's like, every week you're at least for me, it's like I'm getting excited about every matchup every week, and I think the fact that there's one a week is exciting, and even with basketball, it's like you're playing. They might play up to 3 games a week sometimes.
Yeah.
So even with that, there's kind of a lot going on there, but it's baseball. It's like they're gonna play every other day, or sometimes back-to-back days, or sometimes 2 games in a day or whatever, and it's like it just kind of gets to the point where I just have to wonder how much of that affects people's desire to watch games.
Yeah.
And then because of that, obviously if there's not a desire in a fan to watch every game, then you immediately, that's like one step removed from the sport.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, I'm missing games, so I'm not really. And that's kind of how it was for me. It's like I used to enjoy it. I used to go to games. Then we kind of started to suck. And then it was like, I can't name. I'm not even joking with you. I don't think I can name a player on the Rangers.
That was going to be one of my questions.
Yeah, I definitely couldn't. I think for me, a little bit of it is why I don't watch like soccer or hockey or those other games is the excitement is in the scoring. And there is no scoring going on in baseball on a regular basis.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I love it. Is because
of the downtime?
Is because of if a run is earned, if a point is earned, or something, like it is earned, man. Like somebody had to work for that. As opposed, and that was one of the hard things for me to really get into basketball. Basketball, only games I watch are playoffs. Is it you that I talked to about? No, it's my friend Kevin about just college basketball just being like such a joke. Because even the NCAA tournament, I forget the stat, but it's like in one weekend, maybe like the Elite Eight, the 3-point percentage was something like 20% for like all the best teams. And I'm like, what am I watching, dude? But it's like, so basketball, it's tough for me because it's like, oh man, like this guy just scored an alley-oop bucket or something like that. And the next guy just goes and shoots a corner 3. Yeah. And it's like...
It's canceled out of me.
Yeah, we just got so excited over that, and then we forget about it, like two quarters later. And so, I'm like, man, it was hard for me to really enjoy that, but I think now I just enjoy the athleticism of some of this and just the intricacies of the sport and watching everything kind of play out, the plays of that. But in baseball, hockey, soccer, it's like these things are like earned, and it takes a lot of coordination to make this stuff happen. And it's just pretty neat for me to kind of watch that play out.
So do you find yourself as a fan when you're watching a game playing out scenarios pretty much all the time of like, okay, so if this happens right here, let's say there's one out and this guy gets on base, right? Yeah. And so now we've got one out, we've got one on base. Like, you find yourself thinking through, how can we earn runs here?
Yeah, and I think part of that is I played it, for all of high school. I made varsity as a sophomore, and then played. I was on like the practice squad at UNT, basically the equivalent of the practice squad for a semester or so, a little less than a semester.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I mean, and it was just like you just show up and just kind of like help them practice with that, because I wasn't good enough. If you're wondering, that was your next question. Yeah.
Why didn't you play on
I'm not as good as Mitchell Pavel, who actually played for UNT baseball.
Oh, really?
Yeah, second baseman.
Did not know that.
Yeah, man. So he was a stud, dude. So, yeah, man. I think it helps that I played, and so I'm able to kind of notice that kind of stuff. Yeah. Just like you guys with football or basketball, it's like you're noticing some of those things that I'm not noticing off-ball screens, right? It wasn't until I think YouTube came around that really started breaking some of the stuff down, where I was like, whoa, look at all this stuff that happened. Look at how much Steph moves in a single play.
To open something up. Yeah.
Or Clay never dribbling, stuff like that. But it's because of all this teamwork that goes on that he doesn't have to dribble. Yeah. He doesn't want to, like that kind of stuff where I'm like, oh. But I also realized that I put in the effort. Is it effort? If I'm just watching YouTube videos on my toilet? Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. To understand the game. Yeah.
Mental effort.
So at any given moment, there are so many layers that are going on to a baseball game that I am aware of. And so, it's kind of like, how do you make this sport as enjoyable for people when you don't have Yu Darvish and Adrian Beltre and Michael, like how do you make it as enjoyable in a year that we're going to go and lose 100 games, but I can still go out to the game and be like, dude, this is an intense moment right now, and it's kind of hard to kind of translate that, I think, in some way. But yeah, I definitely am going through that.
I think as I've thought over the last few seconds, I really don't think I can name a single player on the roster.
Yeah, I'm trying to think who you might be able to. Corey Seager was our biggest signing this year.
Okay. That name's familiar. We went to a game, was it last season?
2 years ago.
Okay, so was
no.
No, it
was last year.
In the new stadium. Mm. And I remember having this moment where they put up both lineups. I think it was the Red Sox that we were playing. Maybe
I think
not.
so.
Mm. Anyway, but I looked at what I thought was the Red Sox lineup.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I don't know any of these people.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is the Rangers.
That's our boys.
I have no idea who.
I think I recognized one name.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, rightfully so, man.
Maybe did we have Gallo at that point last year?
Yeah, you would have.
Yeah, so it might have just been Joey Gallo, but
I think that's what it was. Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So let's dive into what kind of are your thoughts on why baseball as a sport in maybe more the major leagues have struggled, or maybe I don't know your opinion. Have they struggled? Do you think that there's a drop off in fan engagement and in popularity? I think the statistics show that in some ways, but I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Is baseball dying as a sport?
Yeah, I think one thing you have to think through is, okay, the golden era of baseball was the 40s and 50s, because you're basically coming out of World War II. Mm-hmm. Yeah, talking about World War II on a podcast about baseball. But you're coming out of World War II, and you needed entertainment.
Right.
And so you had, silent films.
Sure.
And, I don't know. What do you even have? Like, what's the Oscar winner from 1947? Where's the list?
Casablanca.
Yeah, sure. That's what you're watching. Or you can go watch live entertainment. Mm-hmm. And so music probably isn't the best at that point, from what I'm gathering of my knowledge of music in the 1940s.
Not right? Even a little bit.
And so you get baseball going on, and particularly in the Northeast, where most people lived at the time. And then also St. Louis. St. Louis is basically the team for anybody west of St. Louis. Okay. You followed St. Louis. And so baseball just really took off, and you had these huge players like Mickey Mantle. I think that was also the era of like Roger. No, Maris was a few years later. But yeah, so Mickey Mantle, right? He's like the name of all names.
Whoa.
Yeah. So, bow down.
Yikes.
And so, yeah,
It's
he's
a little blasphemy.
He's the name of all names, not above all names.
Yeah. Get it right. So, so it's like you got these huge personalities coming out of that era too. And so was it sustainable to think baseball will always be this and will always be America's game instead of just America's pastime? And I don't think there's much of anything that you can look at from the 40s and 50s and say, yep, that's still the top dog.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Of what our culture enjoys to take in. And I'm willing to say that you can't even really look into the 80s and say that it is. Maybe, I guess, just like film, but even then it's like TV shows now.
Everything has changed.
Yeah, and so it's like TV shows. It used to be a joke if you were an actor on a TV show, and now the best actors in Hollywood are going to TV shows.
Yeah. Right.
And even then it's like, Hollywood, take that. It's like Hollywood isn't what it used to be. It's like now you can go film in Georgia if you want to and make The Walking Dead and make one of the greatest TV shows ever in Georgia, you know? And things like that where you're starting to see our culture shift. And so it's like, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world that baseball isn't the number one sport in the world. I think the issue becomes fundamentally you have owners that own the teams that realize they can make a lot more money by not winning baseball games and not putting out competitive teams. And so for them, it's a business. That's all it is to them. Very rarely will you get an owner that is really into winning. The Mets just got an owner that was a fan, basically. And so now he's really into winning. And then you got a few, the Steinbrenners for the Yankees and stuff like that. But are also the Yankees. They're never going to struggle for money.
Right.
They're the most valuable franchise maybe in sports, I think.
They're top three.
Yeah, but it's like Barcelona, Cowboys, Yankees kind of thing. And so fundamentally, that's the issue. And the reason we had a strike recently in baseball, the most recent one, we've had a few, is because that they were trying to address that.
Gotcha.
And so I think the players realized this is going to be a progressive thing where we're going to have to slowly inch towards a more reasonable, goal over time. But essentially what you have in the owners is they can, so there's no salary cap in baseball, right? I don't think there's a salary floor either. Might be wrong on that based on the new CBA, collective bargaining agreement, but there's no floor in terms of how you have to have this kind of salary, right?
Right.
And so if you're the Miami Marlins, they're the ones that are getting the most heat for this. They had Giancarlo Stanton.
Right.
Might have heard of them?
Absolutely.
Any? Let me no? All right. No. So he is just the top dog of hitters, man.
Bombs.
Yeah. Just this beast of a man, can send the ball 500 feet. Played for the Miami Marlins. You had this guy, Christian Yelich, who went off and played for the Brewers and I think won MVP. You had Marcell Ozuna, who before he got into legal trouble was one of the best players. JT Realmuto, who is probably a top 5 catcher in the game. Catcher, pretty difficult position to get a good player at. All playing for the Miami Marlins. And that's a franchise that has won 2 World Series. How many of the Rangers won?
0.
They've been to 2 in, what year is it? 50-something years.
Right.
Miami has been to the playoffs twice in their history of their franchise. They won the World Series both times.
Interesting.
Yes.
That's sick.
Yeah, I know. All right. That's a pretty good winning percentage right there. So you got this, and they have a pretty new stadium. I think they got their stadium like 2008, something like that. And so they got a lot going for them in terms of like, we want to build something here. And you're obviously in a hot destination like Miami.
Yeah.
I mean, LeBron went there.
Sure.
So it's like, you got people that want to come here. And so ironically, Derek Jeter takes over as the president. And I think he was just kind of the fall guy. But Miami guts their team.
Right.
They trade every single one of those players that were all-stars or became all-stars or MVPs and things like that. In part because they knew we can get guys in here and rather than pay them $23 million, we can pay them $700,000. We have these contracts in place with these cable networks that we're going to get paid no matter what. As long as we put a product on the field, we're getting paid from the cable network. It doesn't matter how many fans come into the stands, really, because the cable is what pays us. And we have revenue sharing built within our league that as long as we have a team, we're getting money. So the Yankees are getting money, but they're also giving us some money too because we split this money over 30 people. And so owners are seeing that. Why? Right. Why would you field a team, that has to be competitive? And so you get things like the Rangers where they're at least smart about it. So the Rangers realized we cannot beat Houston. We have we don't have the players to beat Houston. Houston's really, really good for 5 or 6 years. Cheating aside, they were still really, really good.
Yeah.
And they looked at that and they were like, okay, we can try and compete and we can lose a whole lot of money in the process and probably still not beat Houston, who's in our division. Or we can save money, chill out a little bit, just admit like, hey, we're just going to be terrible for a few years. That's when you probably fell out of love with the Rangers around 2016 or so.
Yeah.
And then say like, okay, in 2023, we'll start thinking about competing.
Okay.
And that's when Houston's going to be on their downside. The way baseball works, you don't just replenish guys like that. It's not like basketball where it's like, okay, maybe we can get a playoff spot because there's not 8 playoff spots or 10 now. So that's what happened with the Rangers is they were like kind of strategic about it. Like they weren't saying we're not going to spend any money at all. They were just saying like not right now.
Okay.
Because in this past offseason, they spent the most money in free agency, I think, out of any team. They spent $500 million on 2 players. Corey Seager, Marcus Semien. Learn those names, if nothing else.
Golly, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, it is a lot of money. Man.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I have always been... There's 2 things about baseball that have always blown me away just as far as money. Number 1, the whole no salary cap thing is really interesting.
Yeah,
very interesting to me.
And I feel like baseball more than any other sport... Well, number 1, they pay their players stupid amounts of money.
Yeah, top player right now I think is making $45 million. And so that's... but, you know, Pat Mahomes...
So the only thing that I could think of... Because the other thing I was going to say is they'll do 10-year contracts.
Yeah.
Which before Pat Mahomes' contract, I had not seen
Yeah.
one like that in the NFL. But guys will, you know, the first one coming to mind is I think Mike Trout had like a 10-year contract or something like that.
Giancarlo actually had a...
Did he with the Yankees as well?
Yeah, it might have even been with Miami when he got it. Which is
Okay,
why
gotcha.
they got it.
Sure. But yeah, so like, which I guess is good, and I wonder if we're going to start seeing more of that in football as well. Because people decide like, okay, this is someone we're trying to invest in, and clearly they've got the talent. But yeah, it's like before Patrick Mahomes in the baseball world, it's like, yeah, Mike Trout, I want to say it was something like 10-year, 300, 325, something like that.
Yeah, Bryce Harper got the same thing.
Right, and so that is unbelievable.
Yeah, there is major money in baseball. And I think in part you're playing 162 games.
Right.
And so, you know, they're trying to account for that. But yeah, I remember when A-Rod signed his contract with Texas in I think 2000, 10 years, you know, $250 million was the first, or maybe it was $200 million, but it was the first deal that got into the 20s.
Dang.
And I think at the time it's like, you know, the highest paid football player was making maybe 9 or something like that, and it was going to be some probably like Kurt Warner or something, right? And so,
That's so crazy.
yeah, just to see that, you're like, oh my gosh. And there's some ridiculous contracts in basketball too, but
Yeah.
a lot of that's to manipulate some of the like salary requirement stuff. But yeah, man, baseball is wild.
I've found it so interesting that even as the sport kind of like descends in popularity, they can still be the highest paid athletes or you know, something like that.
Mhm.
That's probably because of the cable deals and that kind
That's
of thing
it.
that he's talking about.
Also, I was going to comment on that. I had no idea.
Didn't know
about
that at
any
all.
of that.
Yeah.
I've always thought about it as just kind of, like you were saying earlier, it's like, okay, it's a little bit slower of a game, like things like that. The seasons are longer. I didn't know anything about all that. That makes so much sense.
Yeah. So
And it honestly makes me
does that
sad.
happen in other sports?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
So if I compare it though to the most popular sports right now, I think it would probably be football, and then college football, and then basketball. Maybe you probably reverse those: basketball, college football, and MMA. Is that probably like the most, like the hottest sports right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. MMA, I don't know if I would throw that in the top 5. It very well may be.
I would. I think
Yeah.
you're
Yeah, it's becoming
better off doing
huge.
so. Yeah, it's massive right now.
But so, what's it? College football and football? I want to put those in one category. But if you wanted to watch a basketball game, your team, where do you have to tune into?
We have to tune in the Bally Sports Network.
Yeah, not easy, right? If you wanted to watch,
I don't even know what that is.
yeah, used to be Fox Sports Southwest.
FS1?
Or
No,
something like that.
FSSW.
FSSW.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We are Fox Sports. If you wanted to watch MMA, what are you watching? An illegal stream somewhere?
Pay-per-view.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I know you people. I do the same thing. But if you want to watch football, what are you watching?
Fox,
CBS, NBC.
Yeah.
Occasionally the NFL Network or something like that. Same thing with college football. You're hearing Jim Nance's voice. You're hearing, these iconic
Kirk
people.
Herbstreit.
Oh my gosh, man!
Joel
You're
Klatt.
Oh, you're getting the goats, right? And so I think that is one thing. Is baseball is not easy to watch.
Okay.
But the owners don't care for now because they have these mega deals with these contracts with these cable companies, and so they're seeing their money coming in. And I think that's part of also why the Rangers, locally speaking, they waited until this year because they saw, okay, our money's coming in 2021 when they started with Valley Sports. So that was another reason to wait. And so, but you just get these Facebook comments. They're like, this team sucks. Fire John Daniels. Bring back Nolan Ryan. And you're like, man, there's some layers to this, brother.
Right,
like to go just beyond, Nolan Ryan and his beef hot dogs that he sells. And, where's fire this guy? And so, I think there's some complexity there that you're not seeing with other sports. But it also kind of ruins the sport in a way, too. Because you can't just jump on and watch on NBC or Fox. Like if Al Michaels is not calling your game, if Kirk Herbstreit is not calling it, if Joe Buck even or Jim Nance, if they're not calling your sport, in some ways it loses some credibility in my mind, because it's like these guys are like, this is who you want talking about your sport.
Yeah, who was that? Who was the tight end that started?
Greg Olson.
Yeah.
Golly.
What'd he say?
He's just not a good commentator.
He would call a couple of those Cowboys games this year.
Man, yeah. It
lost a little bit of credibility. I'm just
good, yeah, right. But that's going to be awkward whenever you guys have Greg Olson on your podcast and you got to play that audio.
We're like, so.
I'll say to his face.
Yeah, you got to be like, hey man, I want to play a clip for you, and I got to apologize.
You're such a great player.
What's Cam Newton like? Yeah, man. So let me ask you this: Can we take a break, and then I want to unpack for you guys, starting from 1994 to April 24th, 2022, how baseball has kind of become what it is.
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right. Let's do that. This will be where the commercial's at.
Phenomenal.
Oh, good call.
There you go. Now you can find the audio.
Hey, Max, I got a question for you.
What you got?
So I'm loving this podcast, but I'm super confused. How are we even doing this?
We're using Anchor by Spotify.
Anchor?
It's the easiest way to make a podcast.
Anchor? I barely know her. So explain that a little bit, because I don't really understand.
It's an app or an online website. All websites are online.
That's a good point. You're right.
It has all the tools you need to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer.
Is it pretty easy?
Yeah, it's pretty easy. It does all the distribution for you to get on things like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, for all those Android users out there.
Yeah. Huh.
Everything all in one place. But I'll tell you the best part about it.
Yeah.
It's free.
Nice. So you're telling me that I ought to download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
You ought to.
Think I might.
And we're back.
And we are back. What a break it was.
It has been.
What a neat deal. Okay, we were just unpacking a little bit of kind of the downfall of baseball. And Cody has some interesting ideas just about kind of what led to that. Why don't you summarize just kind of what you were just showing us?
Yeah, so I'm going to unpack it a little bit.
Yeah.
So we start in 1994. There's a lockout that I think probably started the snowball effect of ruining baseball. What it was. Okay. It was a lockout that ended the World Series. There was not a single playoff game played. They played a little bit of the season, locked out. No playoffs are played. Meanwhile, they come to an agreement, get it done, 95 season starts. Okay, cool. 1999 rolls around, and that's the year of the home run race. Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa battle out to beat this record that existed since 1961. Baseball is a very old sport dating back to the 1890s. So when something historic has happened in baseball...
Did you know that?
Yeah, I knew.
Okay.
I didn't know when in the 1800s, but I knew it was late 1800s.
It's 1880s, 1890s, something like that. It's a Civil War game. So, yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, man. So it's like when something historic happens in baseball, it's usually a big deal. So that's why guys like Shohei Ohtani are like, oh my gosh, dude, like nobody's ever done this since Babe Ruth. It's a deal. So this record has existed, the home run record has existed since 1961. I think Roger Maris of the New York Yankees hit 61 in 61. And Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa are on the verge of breaking this record. They're going back and forth, back and forth. Mark McGwire breaks it first, ironically playing against Sammy Sosa's team. 1999, Mark McGwire hits 70 home runs. Sammy Sosa hits like 66. Nobody remembers Sammy Sosa because he didn't do it first. He didn't come out on top.
66.
Yep. Sad stuff. So that's 99. Year 2000, you have this awesome situation, the Subway Series, New York versus New York in the World Series. Huge deal. You got these mammoth figures that are playing in that game, Mike Piazza, blah, blah. 2001, Barry Bonds is making a run for the new home run record. He comes up to bat in late, I think like maybe mid-September or something like that. It might have been after September 11th. And he hits, number 71.
There's a high drive deep into right center field to the big part of the ballpark. Number 71, and what a shot over the 421-foot marker. The deepest part of any ballpark in the National League. And Barry Bonds is now the home run king, number 71, and it was impressive.
So Barry Bonds breaks the record, hits 71 home runs. To put that in perspective, Max, 30 home runs is a lot. Yeah.
One is a lot for me.
Yeah, right. Yeah, for you. Right.
Ever hit a home run?
We'll change that. We'll change that. 30 home runs is a lot. Homeboy gets 71 home runs.
That is wild.
Ends
that's
up,
a lot.
I think, with 72 home runs that year. Maybe 73, something like that. Whatever. Ton.
Is that still the record?
Yeah, I think
I
so.
think so.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask you, has anyone in recent history even come close to it?
I think
Tried
you're
to
looking
make
at
another race.
I think some. So now
feel like
it's kind of
not.
like the main number people are looking at is 60.
Okay.
And I'll get into kind of why in a second. So Barry Bonds smashes the home run record. The sport's once again just going nuts. It's getting obviously a lot of publicity because of that. And then September 11th happens right near the end of the baseball season. So the whole world kind of goes on pause. And then the first kind of live entertainment that we have after September 11th is baseball. I think a Yankee game or something like that. And it's kind of like coming out of the pandemic. Mm-hmm. You were looking forward to any sort of,
Sure.
And it's like you got that, and all of a sudden everybody loves.
And it's huge.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's just this moment that you're like, when the world gets shut down or something crazy like that happens, there's always I feel like there's these moments after those events.
Will we come back?
Yeah, and it's just like, what's it gonna feel like when normalcy returns?
Well, I'm sure people were like, "We'll never gather in massive groups in the stadium again because
Right, yeah,
another thing like this could happen."
Fear of other attacks or things like that. So we were just watching that video, and you can sense. I joked about like, oh, I could cry, but like you sense this emotion of like,
something's going on.
This is a
big.
huge deal.
And the video you're referencing is the World Series starts, and New York is in the World Series. If you've never been to New York, Yankee Stadium is in the Bronx. Obviously, the Twin Towers were down near that. I can visualize it.
The financial district?
Yeah, financial district, kind of like Statue of Liberty area.
It's on Manhattan.
Yeah.
Manhattan
Lower
for sure.
Manhattan,
Yeah.
I think.
And so not far. We're talking a couple miles. So you're right there. And the first pitch thrown out, it's ceremonial, obviously, is President George Bush, who at this time has like a 95% approval rating. 5% that didn't like him were probably the Taliban. And so he is just beloved figure at this time. And he's throwing out the first pitch, and it's a strike right down the freaking middle.
For tonight's ceremonial first pitch, and please welcome the President of the United States. Mr. President.
Do you think you could throw a strike first pitch?
Yeah, I do.
Do you really?
Yeah.
I definitely couldn't.
You don't think so?
No, not at all.
I think I could throw a strike.
We'll find out. We'll take to the streets and find out.
Oh, we have to.
From the top of the mound, not from the front.
No, I feel good about it. I think I could do it.
Okay. I don't think you can. First try?
Yeah, first try. How many times do you think he practiced before he made that throw?
Bush?
Yeah.
Man, he's probably in the down in the tunnel practicing the whole time. Yeah.
Okay.
No, I feel good. I think first try.
I think it'll take you
I
four
can
tries.
assure you would not get it first try. A strike?
Mm-hmm.
No.
I think it'll take you 4 tries, you 10.
I'm throwing egregious balls
Oh,
those
you'll get
first
it.
9 throws too.
So I don't get any warm up throws. Like you're like I don't get to do what Bush did and like go warm up and then go out to the mound.
I think the pressure of the crowd would throw you off.
Oh, you're talking like real game.
Yeah.
scenario.
So I think we can recreate
no.
that. Yeah, we can recreate that by no warm up throws.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, no, not a chance.
Yeah, you can't
not
recreate
a chance. Anyway, go on. Yeah.
But yeah, so Bush throws a perfect strike. World Series starts. The World Series that year goes to Game 7. It's back in Arizona now. It's an awesome series, back and forth. And Luis Gonzalez, who ironically was part of the home run chase in 1999, came in third place, a distant third place at that, which, respectable by a lot of means, but not that year. He is up to bat, bases loaded, bottom of the ninth. Game is tied at 2. And he's up against Mariano Rivera, who is first ballot Hall of Famer. Was even felt like that at the time. And he just barely gets his bat on the ball, bloops it over Derek Jeter and his in the infield playing in, and they bring in the winning run.
The one problem is Rivera throws inside the left-handers, and left-handers get a lot of broken bat hits in the shallow outfield. Floater, center field. The Diamondbacks are world champions.
And so you're coming off of all of this amazing, like all these amazing events for baseball, and it's got a lot going for it. And then you go into the 2002 All-Star Game, and the All-Star Game is notoriously like pretty awesome for baseball fans. Home Run Derby is awesome. There's just a lot of excitement around it, and it even starts off. With Barry Bonds, of course, it has to, hitting this deep drive to center field, probably the 20th pitch of the game or something like that for the NL, and it's robbed at the track by this amazing defender, Torrey Hunter.
Didn't get his arms extended as he raises one into right center field. At the wall, it is caught. Oh, what a catch by Torrey Hunter. Is that any good? That'll wake you up. My goodness. Way over the wall to take a home run away from Barry Bonds.
So you get this awesome start to this game. Very, very exciting. Got a lot going for it. The game progresses, and it's your traditional all-star game, back and forth. Lots of runs, actually, so, in that sense, it's pretty exciting. And then we get to the 9th inning. And in the all-star game, you're not having your pitchers throw a lot of innings because you don't want them to be tired for whenever they go back to their normal teams. You don't want their arms to get blown out in this exposition game. And so these pitchers are pitching 15 pitches, getting yanked. Another pitcher. And so you got 25 guys on this team. 15 of them are pitchers or so. And eventually, they're starting to kind of run low on pitchers. The game is still tied. Game's supposed to go 9 innings. We're past the 9th inning. Now we're into the 10th inning. Kind of running low on pitchers. Now we're into the 11th inning. And the commissioner makes the decision. Bud Selig makes the decision to, if this game is tied after the 11th inning, we're just going to call it a tie. and end baseball in one of the ways that baseball is never meant to be ended. And we're going to end it in a tie in the hometown from which Bud Selig had made his name known. So he's in front of all of his friends, and it's got to be embarrassing. And we're just going to kind of go our separate ways and end this game in a tie. And so that is exactly what happened.
With a 2-2 pitch to Santiago. Game over. And this game will end in a 7-7 tie.
And so you get the most notable event for baseball in the summer, the Midsummer Classic, ending in a tie. And it's just kind of this limp way to finish something. Then you follow that up the next year with this steroid controversy. Turns out that Barry Bonds, the guy that broke all these records, took a bunch of steroids. Turns out Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, took a bunch of steroids. Kind of, you have your suspicions about Luis Gonzalez, the guy that hit that game-winning hit. Probably took steroids. Roger Clemens, your best pitcher, took steroids. And so it's starting to unravel for baseball at this point. To coincide with this, what do you have going on in football? 2000, in football, Tom Brady, Patriots dynasty starts up. So you're starting to you got the greatest show on turf in 1999. You're getting modern day football coming up as baseball was reaching its peak, and then kind of, what is this, a tie game? What is this? Yeah. All of your players are juiced. Now I don't know how to feel about this. Half of these players are getting suspended and having to go to testify in front of the Supreme Court.
Right.
You get this weird kind of stuff. In basketball, you're getting the Lakers just three-peated.
Right.
You're getting,
the Spurs are rolling.
The Spurs dynasty,
you're getting the Celtics and the Lakers, classic throwback.
Yeah. And so you're getting all of this coming up at the same time. And to add the cherry on top, what baseball, they had their strike in 1994. I remember taking this history class that basically talked about civilizations can't really advance very far whenever they're just trying to survive. You're just focused on survival, right? And so you can't have, great works of art.
Right.
You can't have, all these developments in technology when you're just trying, how are we going to eat? How's Ukraine going to just eat right now? You're not going to get a bunch of great art coming out of this time in Ukraine. Right?
That makes sense.
Yeah. If you're checking out Ukrainian art from the mid 20s, you're not going to get much. Maybe some graffiti. Yeah. So, but it's like, that's the state that baseball was kind of in, was we just need to survive. So David Stern, and the NFL, what they did that was so awesome was they learned that people kind of care about franchises, but they really care about Kobe. They really care about Magic Johnson. So what if we put these guys up front and showed look, this is what you can follow. Then you get Jordan. You get, the greatest basketball player ever during that era, who can then go international.
Right.
And then you start to see NFL kind of pick up on that too. And they also get the Cowboys. And so you got your best franchise, winning all that stuff. And so it's this perfect kind of, okay, these two sports are really coming up. They're starting to see, they've had a couple years of success now. From the 80s is when those sports really started taking off. And then baseball struggling in this sense, and just kind of falling flat on its face into what you've got now. And so you're starting to see some recovery.
Yeah.
And so you talk about, what does it look like to make baseball great again?
Great again. Yeah, sure.
As I wear my red cap that has a T in the front of it. A lot of people were asking me the other day at that fundraiser. They're like, "What's that hat?"
I'm hat these days.
I'm a Rangers fan. So what you can do to kind of, I think, help baseball. One is it's probably the most diverse sport. Huge in South America and Latin America. And the personalities that they have coming out of those countries is out of this world.
Yeah.
I mentioned it earlier, like Fernando Tatis, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Ronald Acuna.
Yeah.
And they're starting to lean into some of that. Old school baseball didn't really like some of that stuff because there's the bat flips, there's the pimping your home runs, there's screaming and pounding your chest. But now it's turning out like, dude, that makes some of the best
People
stuff.
love that stuff.
I want that. Yeah,
you got to have that.
And
Absolutely.
so how do you get these amazing players in front of the fans more? If you wanted to go see LeBron James play, you're going to the stadium, you're paying a lot of money, but you're going to see him play for 40 minutes, right? Barring the injuries that he seems to miraculously have.
Right.
At the end. But you're going to see Luka play for 42 minutes or whatever it is.
Right.
But if you want to see Mike Trout, best player in baseball, Shohei Ohtani, coolest player in baseball. If you want to see them play, I went to that game last week. I get in the stadium. Mike Trout is the second guy to bat. I watch him bat. He flies out. He goes into the field, doesn't get a ball hit to him. For 30 minutes, I don't see Mike Trout do anything.
Right.
And it's another, so Mike Trout bats, 30 minutes later, he doesn't get to touch the ball. He doesn't swing on the ball. Sure. And then he gets bat again. So I've gone 30 minutes without seeing the best player in baseball that I'm here to see. Mm-hmm. If he doesn't get a hit, I'm waiting another 30 minutes, and now I'm an hour into this game, and I didn't get to see Mike Trout play. And that, I think, fundamentally is kind of the difference between, I think, how a lot of people experience sports compared to like a lot of what we're used to.
Mm-hmm. So I saw something interesting with that the other day. Mm-hmm. There was a player mic'd up, and the announcers were talking to him mid-game. Is that something they're doing now more often? What is the...
I think that you're going to see some of that.
Okay.
And, you got to get... I imagine probably the logistics behind it. The broadcast team says these are the players we'd want to talk to. They're not boring. They can actually hold a conversation. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The team has to say, like, okay, these are the guys that are willing to, or that we let you do it. And so it's things like that you're going to run into. So you might have a whole team of guys that like can't hold a conversation.
Sure. Yeah.
Doesn't Zach Greinke, one of the best players in the world, pitcher for years, was awesome. But the dude, he's got kind of anxiety and stuff like that. And so it's like you're not going to talk to Zach Greinke. You're not going to have a conversation with him.
Right.
And so it's, and even you have so many international players. A lot of them aren't confident in their English.
Yeah.
So it's things like that you're going to kind of run into here and there. But I think it's like that's one of the ways that you can kind of highlight these players, and even if they're on the bench. So you got pitchers that pitch every 5 days.
Right.
Well, mic them up on the bench, have them talk to you, as the game's kind of going on. But that's like some pretty dope stuff.
And it was kind of a Cooper Kupp moment because he was like he knew who was batting and he knew kind of what his tendencies were, and so he called. He got the guy out because he called what was going to happen.
Yeah, he was like, oh, this guy's slow, this guy's fast. So I'm going to go here.
Ball went exactly where he predicted it would go, and he caught it and threw it out at second.
Yeah, and there's so much data in baseball. You got the law of averages over 162 games. And so you get so much data on these players, and so you can get really neat things like that to where you can have, just really cool instances. But I think that's one of the things. I think overtime, I think you play a 10th inning, extra innings, right? So I think you play a 10th inning, and then you go into a hockey style of shootout where you do a home run derby. Oh. You get to elect who you put up there. It can be anybody. And so I think if you do a home run derby starting in the 11th inning, you're going to have Shohei Ohtani up there, right? Absolutely. And so now people,
you got your guy up there.
Yeah, you're only going to see it 2 times a month, 3 times a month, something like that. Because that's pretty rare that a game goes past 10. But you got your star players up there more, doing the thing that everybody wants to see. It's going to keep people around a little bit longer, I think, in the game of like, oh, dude, this might go to a home run like blast off or whatever.
Right. People are trying to get out at 7 to
that would
get out of traffic.
So cool.
Yeah, that'd be sick.
Yeah, man. And so I think there's some things you can do with that. I think you got to eventually go to robot umpires because that's the strike zone is just killing us. With
I was gonna ask about that.
Yeah,
I saw recently that they're allowing catchers to have some kind of call signal transmitter type thing, and in my mind I was like, okay, this seems to me like baseball being like, we're gonna evolve, we're gonna move forward, and I'm like, why that?
Yeah.
Like, can they not just do the call signals like normal? Like, why that instead of like, no, we're going to call a good game.
Yeah.
We're going to remove an ump. We're going to put... You can see it on the strike zone right there. You know, they have them on broadcasts. Like,
yes. So that device, basically the watch device, it basically is like the catcher saying, hey, throw a slider outside. Mm-hmm. And so he's communicating to the pitcher. It also tells the fielders too, because that's going to affect where the fielders position themselves.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So a certain ball is going to break a certain way, going to lead to a certain way a guy hits it. So you follow that over 162 games. I know when Max faces a slider outside, he's more likely to hit it to right field. So if slider's coming up, I'm going to be ready on my right side. Those kind of things. So... Right. Now we're getting to the nerdy stuff.
Right.
Yeah. I had another question.
Yeah.
This is something about baseball that I've never understood, and I just saw a video recently specifically about Yankee Stadium. But the stadium like lengths are different.
Yeah.
So you have like a pitcher stadium and a hitter stadium.
Yeah.
And so you've got these guys, you mentioned Giancarlo Stanton, who plays for the Yankees right now. I don't know if this is relevant for him, but right field, I think, for Yankee Stadium is like the shortest.
Yeah, it's like 316 or something ridiculous.
in the MLB or something.
Yeah.
And so guys can just hit it. Yeah. Hit home runs easily over there.
Yeah.
And what is that about? Why is that? Like, do you see that as a problem, or is that like, it is what it is?
No, why is it not a uniform thing?
Yeah, the only thing that has to be uniform right now is the bases, the pitcher's mound, things like that. The walls, the foul territory can be whatever you want it to be. And so I think there's limitations around that of you're not going to get ridiculous stuff. But it's like they used to literally it wasn't the Yankees. Polo Grounds in New York. So there used to be like 3 teams in New York. Polo Grounds used to be it's where the Triple Crown was like first won. It was a horse track, and so center field was literally 500 and something feet away, and then left and right field were like 280 feet away. Like, so it's like there's this famous catch, maybe this guy Willie Mays, who chases down this ball, catches it over his shoulder, throws it back. He caught that in Polo Grounds, and so he was just running forever to like chase this ball down. So things like that are just kind of the quirkiness of baseball, and you get new stadiums every 30 years, 50 years. If the Rangers 15 years, and so because they're like, well, wait a minute, it's really hot out here.
What have we done?
Big mistake.
Let's build a big grill to put everybody in.
Hey man, it works. It's a cool grill. I was cold the other day, so yeah, you get these unique things, and so they're just kind of like, yeah, let's just keep rolling with it.
You don't. I haven't followed enough to see, like, so for example, are guys like on the Yankees, do they traditionally hit more home runs than other guys?
Yeah, it's a pitcher friendly or a hitter friendly park, and so they're going to build their team to fit their stadium, knowing they're going to play 82 games there.
Right. So you got like guys like Aaron Judge, and who else am I forgetting that hits bombs?
I mean, Joey Gallo's a left-handed hitter.
Joey Gallo, yeah, I forgot about that completely. So the Yankees traditionally are guys that bring in these big hitters, right?
Yeah.
So is that solely because they're like, dude, we got what do you say, 318?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
There are other parks where that's not even close.
No.
So, and the video I saw recently, it was a critique of that because a guy essentially barely caught the ball. It was like lower left in the strike zone, and it just flew right out.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, you could tell coming off the bat, like, that doesn't look or feel like a home run, and it was.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like, I guess what I'm asking is, does that impact, let's say for example, so remind me, do you want a left-handed hitter?
Yeah. Because he's going to pull the ball, yeah.
Sure, if you get a guy in there who's a left-handed hitter, he's, got some power, is he more likely to hit, to break a home run record because he's playing at in Yankee Stadium for 82 games, and then historically, is that something that you can look back on and be like, oh, let's say he breaks a home run record,
right?
Okay, dude, he was a Yankee.
Yeah, and that's there's definitely a lot of conversation around that. It makes what Barry Bonds did even more awesome because that's a huge pitcher park in San Francisco, and the wind is killing all the balls. You're on the bay, so the wind's just blasting, and so for him to do what he did is pretty astonishing. Babe Ruth, for example, they say could have had 800 home runs because the parks he played in where you're playing in Polo Grounds and stuff like that, where it's a joke to try and hit a baseball out of there. And so that's part of the conversation is like, and it's more so, it's like making fun of Peyton Manning for playing indoors all of his life. It's like, oh, could he have been the same? It's like, yeah, probably. He probably would have been fine. Mm-hmm. But people still tease him about that. And so people are still going to tease the Yankees about, like, yeah, you got this little Mickey Mouse park. Of course you're going to hit home runs there.
Sure.
But they also, even if they went 82-0 at home, you still got to win, some more games over in Toronto and Boston and stuff like that. And so, yeah, you build your team towards that. But they also have pitchers that are going to give home runs up, pretty easily. And so it kind of averages itself
That's a good
out.
Point.
And so,
I thought about that.
Then you get into the playoffs.
Ways,
You get in the playoffs and all rules are off.
Sure.
Too. So, yeah, that's a great point. And that's one of the fun things about baseball. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I really wanted to touch on.
Do you have any more questions you wanted to ask? You made a motion when I asked about the.
Oh, I was just excited about that because I was going to bring that up.
Okay, yeah, gotcha.
Are there any other stadiums that you're like, dude, what is up with that stadium?
Well, I mean, the one that comes to mind is Boston.
Yeah.
Because you've got, what do they call it, the big green wall over there?
Green Monster.
Green Monster.
Green Monster.
So the deal there is, it's how high is it?
Something like 30-something feet.
But it's...
it's like 280 feet in.
So, okay, so it's 280 in, which is short. But it's high. So, So is it harder to hit? I mean, it seemed like it would be easier to hit there.
Yeah, so...
Have you been to that park?
I have, man. It's pretty amazing.
When you're in the park, is it like, this looks weird?
Yeah. So I also toured it too.
Okay,
and so
cool.
yeah, it's I don't know, man, because it's like going to your something that you're so familiar with,
right?
And be like, is this weird? Like, not
really.
You see it. And I definitely. Oh my gosh, being there though, it's like this is history.
Sure.
Like people have been playing here since 1912 or something like that.
That's wild.
So yeah, let me see if I can pull these dimensions up. Down the line, you're looking at 310 towards the Green Monster. The other line is 302. But then it juts out to 380, like immediately. And then the deepest part of the park is 420. So there's a lot going on, like with that park. That, I mean, you could see the photo there. Just like, what kind of shape is that? But they're in downtown Boston, what are you gonna do?
Oh,
you know,
you
like
gotta
they just kind of
figure something out.
They made it do with what they got, and so you get some like really neat things like that. Houston used to have this slope in their center field. I forget what it's called, but yeah, basically it was like a 10-degree slope way out in center field.
So you gotta start running uphill to get a ball.
Yeah, you literally have to like run up the hill. I can show you all the video later. And it's only like 30 feet or something like that. And so if you hit a ball over there, it's like, dude, you've crushed this thing.
Yeah.
But there's a few people that caught balls up on that hill, or they're like running backwards and like tripping over their feet, and then they catch. And so it just kind of makes for these like really unique things like that.
Sure.
They're like pretty neat. But yeah,
How many parks have you been to?
I think I'm looking at a 10 or 12, something like that.
Do you have one? I mean, I'm sure Yankees and the Red Sox one just for history,
yeah.
But do you have any others that maybe one that you went to and you weren't expecting it to be super cool and then you really enjoyed it?
I really liked. It's called Chavez Ravine. It's where the Dodgers play.
Okay.
In part, I think because of the history, but that's a huge stadium. I think going to baseball games is a good we're in this town. How can we experience this town? Here's $30 to go experience this thing. And then I think the attitude towards going to a baseball game for the average person to be, I'm going with my friends. We're going to go hang out, eat a few hot dogs, drink a few beers, and oh, look, a baseball game broke out.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And so it's like having the attitude of I'm going to watch every single pitch. You're going to be exhausted.
For sure.
It's not reasonable. But if you go just I'm just hanging out with my buddies.
Yeah.
We spent $20 to come out here, make a day of it, and then it is what it is. But yeah, man. So I think that's kind of a lot of my thoughts on baseball and where it's at.
Controversially, I'm gonna.
Okay.
Please.
Controversially, if we look back historically, baseball has been the most exciting when steroids are involved. Is there a way to bring in PEDs?
Amen.
In a way.
It's time.
Yeah, I'm saying, bro. I mean, that's my favorite era of baseball. And again, that might be because of the sports puberty conversation we were having earlier. Mm-hmm. But I think there's a few things you can do. Because right now, what's ruined the game is everybody strikes out.
Right. Well, are pitchers getting better?
They are.
Okay.
And there's a few things there. One, guys are throwing 100 miles an hour. Everybody throws 100 miles an hour because
that's so fast.
So fast. Yeah. Go to the batting cages and hit 70.
I can't.
Hit 70. And literally, whenever you make contact, your hands, you'll be in so much pain. Yeah. I did that. I went, and I played baseball. And I'm like, I remember the first time I faced a breaking ball, a slider in my senior year, a slider came in, which goes like that, left to right, came at my hip and then broke in. And I was terrified. I was like, oh my God, dude. And
I've always thought I would be a nervous wreck.
Yeah.
I just don't think I would.
I don't have the composure to do that at all.
If I saw movement on a ball,
right.
I would freak out.
Yeah, that was my first time.
No,
and I that's when I realized I was like, yeah, I'm not going anywhere. I'm practice squad material.
I'm gonna sit in the stands the rest of my life.
Yeah, man, and it was a strike, and I was like, that was amazing. If he throws that again, I have no chance here.
Right.
Yeah, but I batted 200, I think, my senior year, which is terrible. Yeah, man. I remember the first time I had to pitch, I was the starting pitcher. I threw up before the game. The guy was supposed to pitch, got into a fight in the locker room. And they were like, hey, Cody, you're going to pitch today. And I was facing Rowlett. Rowlett's a really good team.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, man. And then the catcher comes up to me. He's like, hey, do you want to warm up? And I was like, were we supposed to be warming up? He's like, yeah, we're supposed to be warming up.
How does this work?
I had no idea. I think we went 1-20 that year. So, that tells you how good we were. Why I was on varsity as a sophomore. NG Raiders. But, yeah, so I remember throwing up in my mouth and having to, walk over to the trash can, be cool, put water, spit it out.
Cool.
Yeah. But so, first guy, I walked. Second guy hit a line drive at my chest that I snagged. And I just, yeah. So, and the other guy, I picked him off second because he, took off running because he saw the ball. The next batter, line drive to the third baseman, stuck his glove up in some miracle and caught it. And so everybody was like, oh my gosh, dude, that was amazing. And then I think I walked the next 12 guys and hit two of them. Okay. Yeah. That was it. So I peaked there. And then I made the newspaper though. It said losing pitcher, Cody McCarty. So I'm pretty famous.
Did you clip that? You have that still?
I don't know, man. Yeah, I don't think I did. I was a little too ashamed, I think. Yeah, man. What were we touching on?
PEDs.
Yeah, man. So they're doing a few things. Obviously, pitchers throw 100 miles an hour. You also have bigger rosters, and so if you have 13 pitchers on a team,
They're all fresher.
Yeah, they're fresher. They're specialists, and so it's like, okay, this guy can face these two guys,
right?
And so it's just more tailored. Back in the 50s and 60s, even I think into the 70s and 80s, if you asked a starting pitcher what his job was, he's going to tell you, I'm going to get to the end of the game. Like that was his goal, was to pitch the entire game. Now starting pitchers are like, I'm going to give the best I can for as long as I can.
4 innings or something.
And then they're going to bring in the specialist.
Yeah.
So you get things like that. So you got a lot more strikeouts. They're also looking at moving the pitcher's mound back a little bit. So, in baseball, you have, I think, a tenth of a second to make a decision on if you want to hit this ball. So they're thinking, okay, give them a more, 1/100th of a second more.
Yeah.
Things like that. They're looking at making the bases larger so that there's more stolen bases, extra base hits, things like that.
Okay.
So they're looking at a few things. Obviously, robo umps, automated strike zones, they're testing that out in AAA, and there's kind of mixed results with that. So they're looking at things to basically be like, how can we make it to where the ball is put in play more?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But you're getting guys, in terms of like actual mammoth home runs, there's so much data on like how to tailor your swing in a way where you get this launch angle that's just out of this world. And so there's a lot of that stuff where you're like, if you want to see some dudes just mash some taters, like, you can see that on any given night. But day in, day out, the greatness of the steroid era, I'm with you, man. It's like they're trying to, I think, bring some of that back, but they're having
do
to
what they can
manufacture
without bringing the PEDs.
Sure.
Yeah, without actually injecting dudes.
Actually drugging them.
Yeah, the Rangers were some of the worst at that.
Really?
Yeah, I forgot what Ranger play it was, but they were
Josh
like, yeah, dude,
Hamilton?
there was just a bowl of like steroids, basically. So yeah, we were pretty egregious at that.
Man.
Yeah, man.
Winstrol.
Any other thoughts? Any other questions?
I have a general thought of just thank you.
Yes,
Yeah, man.
Thank you.
Coming on and bringing
The heat.
a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah, man. There's two things I know about: Survivor and baseball. So, and I thank you guys for this podcast. If there's anything the world needs right now, it's more white dudes sharing their thoughts about things without being asked.
Nobody asked, but we had a general sense that is what was needed.
Yeah, right. You just felt the universe.
So we answered the call.
We answered the call, and here we are.
That's so brave of you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's been hard. It's been tough. But we'll see this through.
Dude, I appreciate it. And hopefully, I know your audience does not know baseball. And so hopefully, I conveyed it in a way in which it was like, okay, we understand.
I hope this is encouraging to you. I feel more interested in baseball.
I do as well. I walked in here probably not going to watch a single game on TV this year at all, and I might.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll think about it.
yeah. Well,
if I can figure out how to watch it.
Yeah, good luck. I got some.
You got Bally Sports?
No, I sure
I got
don't.
some Russian websites I can send you to. You got to close out 15 ads before you get to watch.
Send us some links.
You got any German ones? I'll
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for your people over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. But yeah, even then, I was thinking about like how to even just start looking at stuff. I don't know if you ever heard of John Boy. He's he's great on like Twitter, YouTube, Instagram.
It sounds like I need to get Twitter again if I want to get into baseball.
Up to you. YouTube is a great source too. But yeah, John Boy does a great job of breaking down stuff. He knows his audience might not know baseball that great. And so JOMBOY, he does a great job of breaking down stuff. You just go to his videos and click best all time. You can just find yourself down a rabbit trail there. There's some good, if you really wanted to dive into like a long-term documentary, Ken Burns. I don't know if y'all know who that.
Oh,
I do know.
absolutely.
Ken Burns.
Yeah, terrific material.
In the documentary.
Yeah, he's obsessed with baseball as well. But of course, you're trying to convince people that don't have the time or the patience for baseball. Mm-hmm. Ken Burns made a 10-part documentary.
Oh, perfect.
That's 10 hours long.
That's classic. Ken
That's
Burns.
very-
It was just all zooming in.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
out of pictures.
but that's
And left, and
absolutely
right.
amazing. Yeah, and so I think John Boy is a great place to start, though.
That's
if you
cool.
start there. Yep.
Why don't you give us a prediction? Who's going to be in the World Series this year?
Man, how do you not take the Dodgers?
Right.
So the Dodgers basically have just taken all their money and said, let's just buy this thing, and they are stacked. They are looking great. In the AL, I'll take Toronto,
okay.
or Chicago, the White Sox or the Blue Jays. Both of them have some very young guys that are some studs, and so be on the lookout for that. So let me say this: I'll make a prediction right now. We can play it again in
That'll
October.
be interesting.
I will say the White Sox will make it to the World Series to face the Dodgers, and the White Sox will win it in 6 games.
Dang.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's on
I like
paper.
that.
Yeah, there you go.
It's out there.
Yeah, that'll probably get edited out, but
I'll leave it in.
But
Cool.
we'll know.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, I don't have any other thoughts. That was
I don't
so
either.
much better than I thought it was going to be. Not,
Whoa.
No, I just mean.
What was that?
I mean,
That was a dig.
Typically, we show up here and we just kind of talk about stuff, but you came thoroughly prepared.
Well, I'm a professional. I call myself the Dirk of podcast guests. So, man, this is awesome. I'm glad to do it.
Hey, Cody DFW, hit him up.
Yeah, if you need
your house
Bought
or sold.
Yeah, man, glad to help. Glad to serve any way I can.
All right. Thanks for stopping by.
See you next week.